chosen one. You didn't arrive here. You were pulled, not by accident, not by curiosity, something else. And it's been happening longer than you think. There was a moment, maybe small, maybe easy to ignore, but it felt off, like something shifted and you couldn't explain why. You told yourself it was nothing. It wasn't. Things started slowing down or breaking or just not working the way they used to. Plans stalled. People changed. You felt it but couldn't name it, like something was quietly rearranging your life without asking you. And you kept waiting. For clarity, for a sign, for something to make sense again. But the waiting didn't feel empty, it felt heavy, because deep down you knew this wasn't normal. You started noticing patterns you couldn't unsee, the same kind of endings, the same strange delays. Even the silence felt intentional. But here's the part you didn't want to admit. What if nothing was actually going wrong? What if it only felt that way because you were being pulled away from something you were never meant to stay in? Yeah, that doesn't sit comfortably, does it? Because it means those moments you called failures weren't failures at all. They were interruptions, and not random ones. You felt isolated at times, like you didn't fit anywhere anymore. Conversations felt shallow. Energy felt off. Even familiar places started feeling distant. So you questioned yourself, am I changing or just losing everything? But what if that question itself was part of it? Because something has been building under the surface, quietly, slowly, without your permission. And you've been feeling it in fragments. Those nights where your thoughts wouldn't stop. Those moments where you felt something big was coming, but couldn't prove it. That strange pressure in your chest for no clear reason. You thought it was anxiety. It wasn't. It was awareness, trying to break through before you were ready. And maybe you still aren't, because what comes next doesn't feel like relief at first. It doesn't feel like clarity or peace. It feels like everything you thought you understood, slipping. You might even resist it. You might try to go back to what felt stable, familiar, predictable. But you've already crossed something, even if you don't remember when. And this is where it gets uncomfortable. You weren't just waiting for something to happen. Something was waiting for you to notice there's a difference, because now the wait is over. But that doesn't mean it gets easier. It means things start moving faster than you expected. Connections shift. Truths surface. Things you ignored before won't stay quiet anymore. And you'll feel exposed in ways you didn't prepare for. Not to others, but to yourself. You'll see things clearly and wish you didn't. You'll understand patterns and realize how long they've been there. And you won't be able to pretend anymore. That's the part nobody talks about, because everyone wants the breakthrough, but not the moment right before it. You can feel something shifting, even if you can't explain it yet. Comment, I'm stepping into it, if you feel this change happening inside you. And if this is speaking to you, stay connected with Born into Light. You're not here by accident. The moment where everything feels uncertain, where nothing fully makes sense, but something deep inside you says, this is it. And you hesitate, because you can still turn away. You can still ignore this, scroll past, go back to what you know. It would be easier, but it wouldn't feel right anymore. That's the problem. Once you've seen it, even slightly, you can't unsee it. So now you're here, not by chance, but because something in you recognized this moment before you did. And maybe you're still trying to understand why, but you don't need the full answer yet. Just this: you're not where you were anymore, even if it looks the same on the outside. And what comes next won't ask for your comfort. It will ask for your honesty. Are you ready for that? Or were you never supposed to be, because readiness was never the requirement, It just felt safer to believe that. You thought there would be a moment, a clean signal, something that says, now you're ready. But nothing ever came like that. Instead, things started slipping, quietly at first, then in ways you couldn't ignore anymore. And you kept asking yourself, why now? Why everything at once? Why this pressure? Why this strange sense that something is closing in and opening at the same time? That contradiction, it's not an accident. It's the part where most people turn back, not because they can't go forward, but because forward doesn't look the way they imagined. It looks uncertain, unstable, almost like you're losing control. And maybe you are, but not in the way you think. Because control was never really yours to begin with. It was just something you got used to holding. That's why this feels like a disruption. That's why your instincts feel split. One part of you pulling closer, the other quietly resisting. Have you noticed that? That hesitation right before something clicks, like your mind almost gets it, then steps back. Not fear exactly, more like recognition you're not ready to admit yet, and it keeps happening, in small moments, in conversations that feel too precise, in timing that doesn't quite make logical sense. You brush it off, but it stays, because something is aligning, but not in a way you can fully see yet. And here's where it gets sharper. What if the confusion you're feeling is actually clarity, just not in the form you expected? That doesn't sit right, does it? Because clarity is supposed to feel good, stable, certain. But this feels like pressure, like something is asking more from you than you planned to give, and you don't know what that more is yet, but you feel it. In the way you can't go back to how you used to think. In the way certain things just don't hold your attention anymore. In the way silence feels louder than noise now. That shift, it already happened. You didn't choose it. You just crossed into it. And now the space you're in, it's not meant to feel comfortable. It's meant to wake something up. Slowly, then all at once. And here's the part that might not make sense yet. Nothing new is actually being added to you. Something is being removed. Layers you thought were you, patterns you thought were you, patterns you thought were normal, attachments that felt necessary. They're not breaking by accident, they're being loosened. And yeah, that can feel like loss. But it's not loss in the way you think, it's more like exposure. Like something underneath is finally being seen, and you don't fully recognize it yet. That's why it feels unfamiliar. That's why it feels intense. Because you're not stepping into something new, you're uncovering something that's been there the whole time. And that realization, it doesn't come all at once. It comes in pieces. In moments where you suddenly understand something, then question it right after. In flashes of certainty, followed by doubt. That back and forth, it's not confusion, it's adjustment. But what if you're still trying to interpret this from the version of you that's already fading? That's why it doesn't fully click. Because the part of you trying to understand this is the same part that's being challenged. So of course it resists, of course it hesitates, and yet you're still here, still listening, still leaning in, even slightly. Why? That's not random. Because something deeper in you already knows this isn't just words. It feels familiar in a way you can't explain. Like you've been here before, or maybe you were always meant to reach this exact point. And if that's true, then this moment isn't the beginning, it's the shift. Not loud, not obvious, but irreversible. And you're right in it now, whether you fully accept it or not. Which means this isn't something you wait for anymore. It's already responding to you, not your actions, not your plans. Something quieter than that. The part of you that noticed before you understood, You remember that feeling? Yeah, not clearly, just enough to feel it again. That's where this actually started. Not out there. Not when things began shifting. It started the moment something inside you paused, not stopped. Paused, like it was listening for something. And you moved past it. Of course you did. It didn't make sense then. But it stayed. It kept repeating in different forms. Different situations, same underlying pull. Almost like something was trying to get your attention without forcing it. And now, it doesn't feel optional anymore. That's the difference. Before, you could ignore it. Now, ignoring it feels heavier than facing it. That weight, where is it coming from? Not pressure from outside. Not expectations. It's coming from recognition. And that's uncomfortable. Because recognition removes distance. You can doubt ideas. You can question timing. But when something feels recognized, you can't fully detach from it. That's why this feels closer than you expected. Closer than it should. And maybe that's what's bothering you. Because this wasn't supposed to feel personal. It was just a video. Just a moment, right? But it doesn't feel like that anymore. And here's where it shifts. What if this isn't reaching you? What if you're the one aligning with it? That flips it. Because now it's not about something choosing you. It's about you. Already being in sync with something you haven't named yet. And that's harder to ignore. Because it means this isn't new. It's been building. Quietly. Precisely. Through things you dismissed. Through moments you almost understood, then moved on. Each one incomplete, until now. But even now it's not fully clear. And maybe it's not supposed to be. Because clarity too early would have made you walk away. Yeah, that doesn't sound right at first. But think about it. If you understood this completely before you felt it, you would have categorized it, explained it away, reduced it to something familiar. And this isn't familiar. That's why it stayed just out of reach. Close enough to feel, far enough to question, until you reach this point. And now something is narrowing. Not closing. Narrowing. Not closing. Narrowing. Like all those scattered moments are, pulling into one place, right here, right now. And you feel it tightening, not in a threatening way, in a precise way, like something is about to become undeniable, but not loud, not dramatic, almost the opposite. Subtle, but final. And here's the part that shifts everything. You've been thinking something is ahead of you, something coming, something next. But what if it's not ahead? What if it's already here and you're just now catching up to it? That changes the timeline, because now this isn't anticipation, it's realization. And realization doesn't ask for permission, it just lands, slowly at first, then all at once. And when it does, you won't need confirmation. You won't need signs. Because the thing you were waiting to see will feel like something you've always known. Just buried, just delayed, just held back until now. And when that clicks, even slightly, there's no going back to questioning if this is real. The only question left will be, why did it take this long to see it? Because it wasn't time to see it. Because it wasn't time to see it. That sounds simple, but it isn't. You think delay means distance, like something was far away, still forming, still on its way. But this wasn't far, it was withheld. Not from you, from your awareness. There's a difference. And you felt that difference every time something almost made sense, then slipped. Every time you got close to understanding, then distracted yourself without knowing why. That wasn't coincidence. It was timing, controlled in a way you couldn't interfere with. And that's uncomfortable to admit, because it means you weren't in full control of when this would become clear. But here's the contradiction. You were still part of it. Still moving toward it even when you thought you were going the wrong direction. Even the detours weren't detours. They were placements. Precise ones. You call them mistakes. But what if they were positions? set so that when this moment arrived, you wouldn't just hear it, you'd feel it. And that's what's happening now, not loudly, not all at once, but enough to make you pause again. That same pause from before, it's back. Do you notice it? That slight hesitation, like something is about to click, but hasn't fully landed yet. Stay there for a second. Don't rush past it this time, because this is where it shifts again. What you've been waiting for isn't information, it's permission. And you've been expecting it from outside, from a sign, from a moment, from something undeniable. But it doesn't come like that. It comes from recognition that you're already standing in it, that the moment you were waiting for didn't arrive. You did. That lands differently. Because now there's no separation. No before this and after that. Just this. And this is where people hesitate the most. Because if this is it, then there's nothing left to prepare for. No more waiting. No more delaying. No more delaying. No more telling yourself soon. And that's where the resistance spikes. Not because you're afraid of what's coming, but because something in you knows this changes how you see everything, even yourself. Especially yourself. Because now you can't hide behind confusion anymore. You can't say, I don't get it yet. Not fully. Not after this. And that's a quiet kind of pressure. Not overwhelming, but inescapable. Because once you recognize something, you're responsible for what you do with it. And that's where this gets real, not mystical, not abstract, real. Because the shift you've been feeling, it's not asking you to believe anything, it's asking you to see clearly, without filters, without distractions, without pretending you don't notice what you've already noticed. And yeah, that's uncomfortable. Because seeing clearly means you also see what no longer fits. What you've outgrown, what you've been tolerating, what you've been avoiding. And here's the part that most people won't say. You don't lose those things immediately. You just can't unsee them anymore. So they stay for a moment, long enough to feel the difference, long enough to realize you're not the same inside them anymore. That's the shift, subtle but irreversible. And once that happens, everything starts revealing itself faster. Not because something external speeds up, but because you do. Your awareness does. Your recognition sharpens. And suddenly, things you ignored for months become obvious in seconds. People, patterns, choices. You see through them. Not in a dramatic way, in a quiet, undeniable way, in a quiet, undeniable way. And that's when it fully turns, because now you can't go back to who you were, even if nothing outside has changed yet. So the real question was never, are you ready for what comes next? It's, what happens when you realize you're already inside it? You stop looking for an entry point, because there isn't one. And that's the part your mind keeps trying to reject. It wants a beginning, a clear step, something to mark the shift. But the shift didn't begin, it revealed itself. Slowly, then all at once. And now you're standing in something you didn't consciously step into, which means you can't step out the same way. Have you noticed that? That quiet sense of no return, not dramatic, not forced, just gone. The version of you that needed constant confirmation, it doesn't feel as convincing anymore. You can still hear it, still feel it sometimes, but it doesn't lead like it used to. Something else does, and you haven't fully named it yet. That's why it feels unfamiliar. Not new, just uncovered. And here's where it tightens again. You've been trying to understand this as something happening to you. But what if it's something happening through you? That changes the position completely. Because now you're not reacting, you're part of the movement itself, even in stillness, even in confusion, especially there. That's where it's been the strongest. those moments when nothing made sense, but something still felt certain. That contradiction, it's not confusion. It's overlap. Two versions of you trying to operate at the same time. One holding on, one already shifting. And you've been feeling that tension in decisions that feel heavier than they should, in simple moments that suddenly feel significant, like something small is carrying more weight than it used to because it is. Not externally, internally. And you can't measure that the same way. That's why logic hasn't been enough. It gets close, then stops, like it's missing something. Because it is. And that missing piece isn't something you learn. It's something you will learn. Yeah, that's different. Because allowing means you stop trying to control how this unfolds. And that's exactly where the resistance spikes again. Because control felt safe. Predictable. Even when it wasn't working, it was familiar. But this doesn't follow that pattern. It moves without asking, reveals without warning, and it doesn't wait for you to feel ready. That's not a flaw, that's the design. And here's the part that shifts it again. You think you're catching up to something, but what if something is finally catching up to you? That lands differently. Because now the pressure you feel isn't coming from what's ahead, it's coming from what's arriving, and it's arriving fast enough now that you can't pretend you don't feel it. In your thoughts, in your reactions, in the way certain things just don't sit right anymore. That's not random. That's alignment becoming unavoidable. And once it reaches that point, you don't get pushed, you get revealed, layer by layer, moment by moment, until there's less and less that you can hide behind. Not from others, from yourself. And that's where it sharpens the most. Because honesty at that level, it doesn't feel soft, it feels precise, unavoidable, like something inside you is no longer negotiating, just showing. And you can either look at it or look away. But even looking away doesn't work the same anymore, because now you know you're looking away. That awareness, it changes everything. Quietly. Permanently. And here's what hasn't fully surfaced, yet this isn't just about seeing. It's about what happens after you see. Not later, not eventually, immediately, because recognition comes with movement. Small at first, almost unnoticeable, but it's there, in what you tolerate, in what you respond to, in what you no longer chase. And that shift, it doesn't ask for permission either, it just starts. So now you're here. Not waiting, not preparing, already inside something that's unfolding through you. And the only thing left, the only thing that hasn't fully clicked yet, is what this actually asks from you next, not in theory, not in ideas, in action. And you feel that, don't you? That quiet pressure again, but clearer this time. Closer, like something is about to move, and it's not asking if you're ready, because readiness would slow it down. And this isn't slowing anymore. You feel that shift. It's subtle, but tighter now. Like something that was distant is suddenly, right here, closer than you expected, closer than you wanted. And you're noticing things faster, noticing what drains you, what pulls you out of alignment, what feels off, even when it looks right. That wasn't always this clear. So what changed? Not your environment. You did, but not in the way you think. It's not growth the way people describe it. It's exposure. Parts of you that were always there are no longer staying quiet. And that creates friction, because now you can feel the difference between what's true and what you've been tolerating. And that gap, it's getting harder to sit in. You felt that, haven't you? That sudden discomfort in situations that used to feel normal, that urge to pull back, even when nothing wrong is happening. That's not overthinking, that's clarity without permission. And here's the contradiction. The clearer it gets, the less certain you feel. That doesn't make sense at first. Clarity should feel stable, grounded. But this feels like something is dissolving, like the ground you stood on isn't as solid as it looked, and maybe it never was. That's the part people avoid, because if that's true, then everything built on that ground has to be re-seen, not destroyed, re-seen. And that takes more than awareness. It takes honesty, the kind that doesn't leave room for comfortable explanations, the kind that interrupts you mid-thought. Like this, what if you already know what doesn't belong anymore? Not fully, just enough that you keep circling around it without naming it. Yeah, that. You felt it again just now. That slight pull, that hesitation. That almost decision you haven't made yet. It's still there, waiting. Not forcing, but not disappearing either, because this isn't about pushing you forward. It's about removing the distance between you and what you already see. And that distance, it's getting thinner every moment, every realization, every time you catch yourself thinking in a way you didn't before. That's movement, even if nothing external changes yet. And here's where it sharpens. You've been expecting a clear step, something obvious, something undeniable. But what if the next step is almost invisible? So small you could ignore it, so quiet you could delay it, but precise enough that once you take it, everything starts shifting around it. That's where you are, right at that edge. And no, it won't feel dramatic. It won't feel like a breakthrough. It'll feel like a decision you almost didn't make. That's how it works. Because the louder moments, those come after. After you move, after you stop waiting for something bigger, after you act on something smaller. And that's the part that hasn't fully clicked yet. You're still expecting scale, still expecting something visible. But this begins where no one else sees it. Only you, only in that quiet space where you can't pretend you don't know anymore. And once you move from there, even slightly, you won't question if this is real. You won't need confirmation, because the shift will start responding to you instantly, and that's when it becomes undeniable. Not before, after. So now the question changes again. Not what is this? Not is this happening? But are you about to ignore it or follow it this time? Because you've been here before. Not exactly like this, but close enough to recognize the feeling. That moment where something inside you leans forward and you don't. You pause, you analyze, you wait for it to feel clearer, safer, more certain. And then it fades, not completely, just enough to make you question if it was ever real. That's how it slipped before. Quietly. Not taken, just not chosen. But this time feels different, heavier. Not in a bad way, in a final way. Like the window isn't closing, but you are. Closing in on a point where hesitation won't feel neutral anymore. It will feel like a decision. That's new, because before doing nothing felt like doing nothing. Now doing nothing feels like moving away. You feel that shift, that subtle pressure again, but sharper, more defined, almost like something is watching which way you lean, not judging, just responding. And here's where it turns. You think you're choosing the moment. But what if the moment is choosing your response? That flips it. Because now it's not about finding the right move. It's about noticing what you're already about to do. Before you justify it, before you explain it away, that first instinct, the one that shows up before your thoughts organize it, that's where this lives, and you've been overriding it. Not intentionally, just habit, conditioning, protection. But now, it's getting harder to override, because it's coming through clearer, faster, more direct, almost like it doesn't want to be filtered anymore. And that's where the tension spikes. because clarity without filters doesn't leave much room to hide. And part of you still wants that space, that delay, that "I'll think about it." But you've noticed something, haven't you? Thinking about it doesn't feel the same anymore. It doesn't resolve it. It stretches it, creates distance where there wasn't supposed to be any. And that distance, it feels wrong now, not logically, viscerally. Like you're stepping away from something you were meant to step into. And here's the contradiction. The more you try to slow this down, the more intense it feels. But when you stop resisting, it quiets, not disappears, aligns. That's different, because now the intensity isn't pressure, it's direction, and you're starting to feel that difference, subtle but clear, like a line forming that you didn't draw but you can follow, and it doesn't explain itself. It doesn't need to, it just points. And the longer you stand here, the more obvious that direction becomes. Until ignoring it doesn't feel like confusion anymore. It feels like avoidance. And that's where it gets real. Because avoidance now comes with awareness. You know when you're doing it. You feel it, that slight disconnect, that quiet tension right after. You choose comfort over movement. It lingers longer than before. Because something in you isn't agreeing with their choice anymore. Not fully. And it won't stay quiet about it. Not this time. Because this isn't about getting it right. It's about not pretending you don't see it. That's the shift. Not perfection. Not certainty. Honesty. Immediate, uncomfortable, clear. And once you act from that place, even once something changes, not everything, just enough. Enough to confirm you didn't imagine this. Enough to show you this responds when you do. And that response, it's faster than you expect. Cleaner, undeniable. But it only happens after you move, not before. So now you're here again, at that same edge, but not the same version of you. And that's why this feels different. Because this time you don't just feel the pull, you understand what happens if you ignore it. So the question isn't repeating itself anymore. It's narrowing, sharpening, becoming harder to avoid. What are you about to do right now? Not later, not when it feels clearer. Now. Because this moment, it doesn't stretch the way you think. It holds briefly, then shifts. And whatever you choose here, it echoes, not loudly, but precisely. You felt that before. That small decision that somehow changed more than it should have. You didn't notice it at first, but later you traced everything back to it. This feels like that. Quiet, almost insignificant. But it isn't. Here's what hasn't been said clearly. This isn't about becoming something. It's about no longer delaying what's already trying to move through you. And that movement, it's simple, uncomfortably simple, which is why it's easy to ignore. Because your mind expects complexity, steps, plans, certainty. But this doesn't come with that. It comes as a knowing you can't fully explain, and a choice you can't fully avoid anymore. That's it. No noise, no signal. Just you and that quiet pull again. So if you're waiting for everything to make sense first, it won't. That's not how this opens. It opens after you move, even slightly, even imperfectly, and once you do, something responds. Not outside, inside. A shift in how things feel. A clarity that wasn't there before, a sense that you stopped resisting something real. And it won't be overwhelming, it'll be undeniable. That's how you'll know. Not because someone tells you, because you feel the difference immediately. So this isn't a big moment, it just looks like one later. Right now, it's small, quiet, almost invisible, but it's yours, and it's here, and it's not waiting. So don't overthink this part. You already know what this is pointing at. You already felt it before you tried to name it. That first instinct, that's the one. Not the second, not the safer one, the first. So whatever that is for you, don't push it away again. Not this time, because the wait you thought you were in, it wasn't for something to arrive. It was for you to stop stepping back. And now that you see it, even slightly, the only thing left is simple. Not easy, simple. Move or stay where you already know you don't belong anymore. This wasn't the moment you were waiting for. This was the moment you became aware. If you're ready to keep moving forward, subscribe and stay with this path. Because not everyone reaches this point, but you did.